How specifically did identity politics figure into this election?
I think there was the ambiance of this elitism and this condescension bordering on, and maybe on, not just bordering. There was the condescension bordering on, verging on contempt for ordinary people, in particular, the white working class.
And maybe I should just add this really quickly. I mean, you and I just spoke for 20 minutes about how much we love language. And a lot of identity politics is denigrating the way that people use language. And language is very important to people, and they're going to be very unhappy if you're insulting their language use.
I'm not sure if it's denigrating. I think personally, it's doing two things. It's corrupting language. It sounds terrible. I mean, obviously, there are times when you're going to try to make accommodations. So instead of using one who says these things, if one says these things, he's an idiot. So you try to change he to they. I don't think that's a big deal. It doesn't ruin language. But when you start putting in all of these slashes and all of these, it just looks horrible on the page. And how it looks, it makes a difference how it looks on the page. If I see when I'm writing a page and I see it doesn't look good, I change it. Okay, English is not calligraphy. I recognize that. But there is the word just slipped my mind, a visual aspect to how language looks on a page. There's also a phonetic aspect to it. Somebody recently sent me a passage by Bertrand Russell on writing. He was responding to a correspondent. I think it was a 13-year-old girl, if my memory is. And one of the things he said, I thought, yep, that's absolutely right. He says, everything you write, you should read out loud. And if it doesn't sound good, there's a problem. And I do. I read out loud. If it doesn't sound good, it's a problem. And all of this political correctness with language, it makes it very ugly. Ugly. It's ugly. So that's corrupting language. It's people in departments like rhetoric. You know what department rhetoric is? You know what it is? It's a person who's teaching English and has never read a novel. That's what the rhetoric department is.
I didn't even know there were rhetoric departments.
Oh yeah, that's it. I don't know. Now the humanities are being destroyed, slash and burn with the humanities. But yeah, there was a department of rhetoric. But the people obviously.
What would they teach in that?
What?
What would they teach in that? Speech writing and.
I have no idea, but I know the people who were teaching it.
Okay.
And they've never read a novel. So these people who are trying to police language and are trying to shoehorn political correctness in language, it just slipped my mind. What's the instrument?
A shoehorn.
Yeah, but it's a mechanics instrument.
A lever?
Not lever, it'll come to me. They don't understand what language is. You can't mechanically change language. You can't mechanically change it. It can, not just can, it of course evolves. And phrases which at one time seemed outrageous, they gradually evolve into language. But you can't take a shoehorn, I can't think of the, You can't mechanically change language. Language has its flow, it has its cadence, it has its music. You can't do that like an apparatchik, like some party apparatchik, making language conform to your obtuse or idiotic ideology. So that's one thing, the corruption. The second thing is, and here I know I'm treading in thin water or thin ice, and I have to be careful, not because I'm afraid, but because I want to be right. There's a tendency to want to use language to smuggle in a political agenda or ideology, that you want to be called something which implies, and more than implies, things bearing on issues like biology, and by, people say, if that's what they want to be called, why don't you call them? What's the big deal? And at some level, it's not a big deal. It's true. It's true. Your name is Robinson, and you say, you know what? I'd rather be called Bobby. What's the big deal? And it's true, there is no big deal, and why should I call you what you want to be called? But there is, in my opinion, a problem where the request that I be called something becomes a Trojan horse in order to impose on me an ideology, not just a personal preference, an ideology which I don't believe is factually correct. Robinson Earhart, I'll call you Bobby, of course, but I'm not going to call you they. I'm not going to do that because you are not a they. So that to me is the second issue, the corruption, the smuggling in of a political ideology.